When the whole world is running towards a cliff, he who is running in the opposite direction appears to have lost his mind. You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. Life with God is not immunity from difficulties, but peace in difficulties. Life with God is not immunity from difficulties, but peace in difficulties. Once people stop believing in God, the problem is not that they will believe in nothing, rather, the problem is that they will believe anything. Don't shine so that others can see you. Shine so that through you, others can see Him. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. I believe in Christianity as I believe that the sun has risen, not only because I see it, but because by it I see everything else. There is someone that I love even though I don't approve of what he does. There is someone I accept though some of his thoughts and actions revolt me. There is someone I forgive though he hurts the people I love the most. That person is me. Hardship often prepares an ordinary person for an extraordinary destiny. We must stop regarding unpleasant or unexpected things as interruptions of real life. The truth is that interruptions are real life. There are two kinds of people, those who say to God, "Thy will be done," and those to whom God says, "All right, then, have it your way." Atheists express their rage against God although in their view He does not exist. God allows us to experience the low points of life in order to teach us lessons that we could learn in no other way. The fact that our heart yearns for something earth can't supply is proof that heaven must be our home. Isn't it funny how day by day nothing changes, but when you look back, everything is different? Getting over a painful experience is much like crossing monkey bars. You have to let go at some point in order to move forward. If you live for the next world, you get this one in the deal, but if you live only for this world, you lose them both. I think that if God forgives us we must forgive ourselves. Otherwise, it is almost like setting up ourselves as a higher tribunal than Him. Education without values, as useful as it is, seems rather to make man a more clever devil. God doesn't want something from us. He simply wants us. I didn't go to religion to make me happy. I always knew a bottle of port would do that. If you want a religion to make you feel really comfortable, I certainly don't recommend Christianity. Don't let your happiness depend on something you may lose. A proud man is always looking down on things and people, and, of course, as long as you are looking down, you cannot see something that is above you. I pray because I can't help myself. I pray because I'm helpless. It doesn't change God, it changes me. To be a Christian means to forgive the inexcusable because God has forgiven the inexcusable in you. The Christian does not think God will love us because we are good, but that God will make us good because He loves us. We all want progress, but if you're on the wrong road, progress means doing an about turn and walking back to the right road. In that case, the man who turns back soonest is the most progressive. For pride is spiritual cancer, it eats up the very possibility of love, or contentment, or even common sense. You find out the strength of a wind by trying to walk against it, not by lying down. I know now, Lord, why you utter no answer. You are yourself the answer. Before your face questions die away. What other answer would suffice? We may ignore, but we can nowhere evade the presence of God. The world is crowded with Him. He walks everywhere incognito. The perfect church service would be one we were almost unaware of. Our attention would have been on God. Humans are amphibians, half spirit and half animal. As spirits they belong to the eternal world, but as animals they inhabit time. When we lose one blessing, another is often most unexpectedly given in its place. Pain insists upon being attended to. God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our consciences, but shouts in our pains. It is His megaphone to rouse a deaf world. Affection is responsible for 9/10 of whatever solid and durable happiness there is in our lives. I have learned now that while those who speak about one's miseries usually hurt, those who keep silence hurt more. The most dangerous thing you can do is to take any one impulse of your own nature and set it up as the thing you ought to follow at all costs. Many things have gone wrong with the world that God made and God insists, and insists very loudly, on our putting them right again. When a man is getting better he understands more and more clearly the evil that is still left in him. When a man is getting worse he understands his own badness less and less. The real test of being in the presence of God is, that you either forget about yourself altogether or see yourself as a small, dirty object. A man can no more diminish God's glory by refusing to worship Him than a lunatic can put out the sun by scribbling the word, darkness on the walls of his cell. It costs God nothing, so far as we know, to create nice things, but to convert rebellious wills cost Him crucifixion. Aim at heaven and you'll get earth thrown in. Aim at earth and you get neither. Spiteful words can hurt your feelings but silence breaks your heart. There are no ordinary people. You have never talked to a mere mortal. It may be better to live under robber barons than under omnipotent moral busybodies. Courage is not simply one of the virtues, but the form of every virtue at the testing point. You and I have need of the strongest spell that can be found to wake us from the evil enchantment of worldliness. The safest road to hell is the gradual one, the gentle slope, soft underfoot, without sudden turnings, without milestones, without signposts. Lust is a poor, weak, whimpering, whispering thing compared with that richness and energy of desire which will arise when lust has been killed. No soul that seriously and constantly desires joy will ever miss it. Those who seek find. To those who knock it is opened. If you look for truth, you may find comfort in the end. If you look for comfort, you will not get either comfort or truth, only soft soap and wishful thinking to begin, and in the end, despair. I gave in, and admitted that God was God, and knelt and prayed, perhaps, that night, the most dejected and reluctant convert in all England. If I find in myself a desire which no experience in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that I was made for another world. The task of the modern educator is not to cut down jungles, but to irrigate deserts. Friendship is unnecessary, like philosophy, like art. It has no survival value, rather it is one of those things that give value to survival. Believe in God like you believe in the sunrise. Not because you can see it, but because you can see all it touches. Don't use words too big for the subject. Don't say infinitely when you mean very, otherwise you'll have no word left when you want to talk about something really infinite. If only this toothache would go away, I could write another chapter on the problem of pain. Someday you'll be old enough to start reading fairy tales again. With the possible exception of the equator, everything begins somewhere. If there's anyone who can appear before Aslan without their knees knocking, they're either braver than most, or else just silly. Good and evil both increase at compound interest. Literature adds to reality, it does not simply describe it. It enriches the necessary competencies that daily life requires and provides, and in this respect, it irrigates the deserts that our lives have already become. For most of us the prayer in Gethsemane is the only model. Removing mountains can wait. Love is not affectionate feeling, but a steady wish for the loved person's ultimate good as far as it can be obtained. If you had felt yourself sufficient, it would have been a proof that you were not. Atheism turns out to be too simple. If the whole universe has no meaning, we should never have found out that it has no meaning. Child, to say the very thing you really mean, the whole of it, nothing more or less or other than what you really mean, that's the whole art and joy of words. Eros will have naked bodies, friendship naked personalities. It is only our bad temper that we put down to being tired or worried or hungry, we put our good temper down to ourselves. 30 was so strange for me. I've really had to come to terms with the fact that I am now a walking and talking adult. The long, dull, monotonous years of middle-aged prosperity or middle-aged adversity are excellent campaigning weather for the devil. Don't you mind, said Puddleglum. There are no accidents. Our guide is Aslan, and he was there when the giant king caused the letters to be cut, and he knew already all things that would come of them, including this. This was bad grammar of course, but that is how beavers talk when they are excited. I mean, in Narnia in our world they usually don't talk at all. The lion, the witch, and the wardrobe. Yes, I know, interrupted Puddleglum. And few return to the sunlit lands. You needn't say it again. You are a chap of one idea, aren't you? But no one except Lucy knew that as it circled the mast it had whispered to her, "Courage, dear heart," and the voice, she felt sure, was Aslan's, and with the voice a delicious smell breathed in her face. Either the day must come when joy prevails and all the makers of misery are no longer able to infect it, or else, forever and ever, the makers of misery can destroy in others the happiness they reject for themselves.